Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we have got a lot to cover, so let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a truly chilling narrative sourced from a classic tale of rural horror and black magic. We're going to deconstruct the terrifying events that unfolded in a village called Khetpur. It's one of those stories that perfectly illustrates how environmental desperation, deeply rooted superstition, and the sheer tragedy of scapegoating can all just collide to create this perfect storm of supernatural terror. We aren't just telling a ghost story today, though. We're actually breaking down the specific terrifying mechanics of vengeance, exactly as described in our source material. Let's get into it. I have given birth, not death. But now you all must understand for yourselves who is truly alive and who is dead. Wow. This is the haunting final warning from a woman named Savitri. What makes this so compelling is how this single sentence serves as the ultimate bridge between human tragedy and supernatural terror. Savitri was a midwife. You know, a woman who brought life into the world, who is suddenly forced to defend her own life against the very people she's been saving. This quote, it's her drawing a firm line in the sand. It's the exact moment a broken human being decides to weaponize the darkness her own community has pushed her into. All right, let's set the stage with Section 1, Superstition and Accusation, looking at the village of Khetpur. So context is everything here. Khetpur wasn't just a village undergoing a tough time, it was a literal powder keg. For 3 grueling months, they suffered this incredibly severe drought. The earth was cracked, the skies were yellow with dust, and as you can imagine, paranoia was running at an all-time high. People were already whispering that the goddess Palika was angry with them. Then, in the third watch of the night, a tragic catalyst happens. A young woman named Rupa dies during childbirth, despite Savitri's desperate efforts to save her. And the immediate aftermath? Well, there's no mourning period, no investigation. The terrified village instantly turns into a mob, led by the village mukhya, or headmen, and they burn Savitri's hut to the ground. This brilliantly illustrates how an environmental crisis primed this village to find a scapegoat the second tragedy struck. And this brings us to the really tragic duality of Savitri. For years, she was Vaidyamai, the highly respected healer. She used herbs to cure fevers, she acted as a midwife, quite literally pulling women back from the brink of death. She was revered. But in a matter of minutes, this mob rebrands her as a Chudile, an accused witch. The Mukhya claims her medicines are actually poison and blames her for angering the goddess. So the absolutely crucial point here is how rapidly society can just erase a lifetime of service. Savitri points out the sheer illogical nature of the mob, saying, hey, if my medicine was poison, how were your children even alive? But as we know, fear doesn't listen to logic. Now, as her home, her medicines, and her entire life's work are engulfed in flames, Savitri doesn't beg. Instead, she delivers this chilling, prophetic response. When truth is burned, the ashes always say something. Take a second to let that sink in. This right here, this is the exact pivot point of our explainer, the very moment where human cruelty stops and the terrifying machinery of vengeance begins to turn. She retreats into the darkness, heading straight toward the ruins of the old Kalika temple deep in the jungle. Which leads us to Section 2, Terrifying Black Magic and Savitri's Vengeance. Our source material provides this surprisingly grounded, almost procedural look at how the kaala jaadu, the black magic, is actually cast. Let's break down the anatomy of this ritual step by step. Step 1. Savitri digs a hole in the untouched earth beneath the ruined temple. Her fingers are physically tearing into the dirt, entirely fueled by anger. Step 2. She places a clay doll inside. But it's not just any doll, right? She binds it to her target by wrapping it in the old clothes and fallen black hair of Lata, who is the Mukhya's wife. Step 3. She writes a curse on the doll's chest using coal. And finally, Step 4. She seals the whole thing by tying a black thread bearing a single blood-red bead tightly around its neck. When you consider the sheer, visceral hatred required to perform these deeply physical, deliberate actions, the supernatural begins to feel terrifyingly real. And what exactly did she write on that doll? Your happiness is my thirst. I mean, wow. This isn't some polite plea to the gods. This is pure, unadulterated vengeance. And what exactly did she write on that doll? Your happiness is my thirst. I mean, wow. This isn't some polite plea to the gods. This is pure, unadulterated vengeance. Actually, scratch that. It's not just vengeance. It's a promise. As she buries the doll, she declares that the soil will steal their breath, their crops will rot, and their house will turn to ashes. The magic here is entirely fueled by a profound sense of injustice. Let's see how that plays out in Section 3, Mukia's Cursed House, as the vengeance manifests. The curse is designed to completely overwhelm, attacking every single pillar of the Mukia's status. First, this pervasive smell of rotting flesh fills his entire home. Then his wealth is targeted. His crops suddenly decay and swarm with flies, and his cattle become infested with worms as if they've been dead for months. Finally, the curse goes after his family. His wife, Lada, begins suffering horrific physical ailments. Her hair falls out in clumps, looking like black wires. Bizarre, coin-sized blue-green marks appear all over her skin, marks that are ice-cold to the touch, like dead metal. By night, she wakes up screaming, her voice totally inhuman, her eyes completely empty. And this brilliantly illustrates how the curse perfectly mirrors the destruction of Savitri's life, piece by piece. Desperate, the Mukia calls in Pandit Harinath, the local village priest. The Pandit takes one look and instantly diagnoses the horror. It's a soul-binding, a dark magic ritual where the caster anchors a piece of their own tortured soul into a physical vessel to drain the life of a specific target. The Pandit warns that they are now on a serious ticking clock. If the doll isn't unearthed and destroyed before the full moon, the curse is going to act like a poisonous vine, consuming Lata, the children, and eventually turning the entire house to ash. Moving right along to Section 4, Discovery of the Doll, and a frantic midnight dig. Picture this scene. Under a broken moon, the Mukia, the Pandit, and two completely terrified villagers trek back into the jungle, to the old temple. The earth literally smells of rot. They dig frantically until the spade hits something hard. When they pull it up, the physical evidence perfectly matches the horrific symptoms we just went over. They find the clay doll wrapped in Latavi's clothes. They see the black thread, the red bead resembling a drop of blood, and the coal writing scrawled across its chest. In this moment, the Mukia is staring right at the physical manifestation of his own guilt, the literal engine driving his wife's suffering. And that brings us to the climax in Section 5, Incomplete Revenge, and a horrifying death. So their attempt to destroy the doll, it goes catastrophically wrong. As the Mukia prepares to burn it, the entity inside fights back. Step 1, an inhuman voice echoes out from the temple walls, whispering, "Your end is mine." Step 2, their torch violently blows out and the Pandit just collapses, his breathing stopped entirely. Step 3, in a blind panic, the Mukia violently throws the doll to the ground, and this right here is the fatal mistake. The doll doesn't shatter, but the black thread snaps, and that crucial red bead rolls away, lost forever in the dark temple stairs. The Pandit screams that the curse is now in their blood. Step 4, completely ignoring him, the Mukia snatches up the broken doll and flees in sheer terror back to his house, convinced he can still somehow burn it. But of course he's way too late. The morning light reveals an absolutely gruesome aftermath. Lada is dead on her bed. Her eyes are wide open but lifeless, her lips are blue, and those coin-sized marks have deepened significantly, as if poison has entirely consumed her from the inside out. But the true horror is what is sitting right next to her body. The doll's neck is completely missing, replaced by a deep black burn mark, a direct, terrifying consequence of that snapped thread from the night before. The coal writing, "Your happiness is my thirst," is now completely faded, indicating the dark magic has successfully been fully absorbed. The Mukia is left completely broken in the corner, muttering to himself with the clay of the doll still stuck to his hands, finally, tragically realizing the ultimate cost of burning the truth. And all of this leaves us with one seriously lingering, unsettling question. Savitri's revenge consumed Lata, yes, but the ritual itself was violently interrupted. The red bead was lost in the ruins. The source text tells us that to this very day, no one in Khetpur dares to walk under the neem trees at night. So I have to ask you, with the red bead lost and the revenge technically left incomplete, what still roams under the neem trees of Khetpur? It's a powerful, terrifying reminder that when superstition and cruelty give birth to darkness, that darkness rarely just disappears. It leaves permanent scars on the landscape. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you in the next one.